hit the record button. So I have to hit that. But one of the things I definitely wanted to jump into was keeping faith in those hard times, which
Yeah,
goes right into what we were just talking about.
dude. I think I get like emotional about this kind of stuff, right? Because at
Mm-hmm.
the end of the day, like I know what I deserve, and it's not what I have. Like I am so stinking blessed beyond measure. It's unbelievable. But it's because I have this superpower that I wake up in the morning and I just expect the day to go amazing. Like it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't always go amazing. There's always things that happen. But it's like going back to what we were just kind of talking about before we hit record, it's just like you literally get to choose like what you focus on. And so we just did this real estate deal where I literally lost $58,000. It's the first deal I've ever lost money on.
This episode is sponsored by Black Label Meat. Black Label Meat only sells premium quality meat that is grass fed, grass finished, and they do regenerative grazing practices. Check them out now, blacklabelmeatcompany.com, and use the code Jesse for 10% off.
And we built a dream home. Like it was what we were going to be moving into. Like we were super pumped. Like we're in there with the family during pre-construction, writing scriptures on the wall and like just like imagining where the kids are going to be and all that stuff. And it's just amazing, right? And we didn't sell. So we have a ranch. We have a horse ranch in Homedale, Idaho, and we didn't sell it in time. And so the new house got done before we were able to sell the ranch. And we were just going to take the proceeds from the ranch and buy the dream house with, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it ended up not working out. And it was like big roller coasters of emotion. And my wife and I are like taking turns talking each other off the cliff kind of thing, right? But when you're married and you have that like communication and that connection with your partner, like that's, and you have the same faith, like that's what gets you through the tough times. And that's why you keep waking up in the morning expecting great things to happen, not just like hoping one day it gets better. Right. And that's a
Yeah.
very different attitude. But we ended up not selling the ranch in time. And we had to put the new house on the market. Dude, it sold in 2 days. This multi-million-dollar property sells in 2 days in today's market. That's not happening
Mm-hmm.
right now, right? So it's like, okay, God, that was your plan. I'll take the $58,000 lesson. I'll do things in a different order next time. And come to find out, dude, we had to lose 58,000 to gain 300 grand on another project. So because we went through that experience, it was able to us to regroup and look at other opportunities. And we're literally going to save about 300 grand with this next build that we're doing, which was just huge. But in the moment, you're just stuck on focusing on like the loss instead of like the lesson. And I think that's one thing that like I feel like I'm pretty good at is being able to like quickly turn the page on like, okay, that sucked, got kicked in the teeth, but like, why did I get kicked in the teeth? Like, where's the lesson in the teeth kicking that it doesn't happen again, or that I can just kind of change the outcome a little bit more, right? But I don't know, man. It's just trying to figure it out every day.
Yeah. And I feel people often want to thank God or reach out to God when things, are, maybe going bad. Like, hey, can you turn this around? Um, I usually thank Him for the bad things
Yeah.
and the good things. It's
Mhm.
like anything that happens, I feel like we kind of have the similar mindset that I don't let anxiety, depression, none of that stuff has ever like just been in me.
Yeah.
I've had this, like you were saying, this superpower where none of that stuff has ever kind of just been in my body, we'll
Right.
say, in my mindset, because I've always had this faith that none of this stuff actually matters.
Dude,
So I can continue to just move forward.
I love that you said that because that's almost one of my biggest struggles is I go so far both ways. Like everything matters. I'll get super zoned in on like every little detail. And then I go back to like, dude, none of this matters. Like this is all just like, what is this even for? You know what I mean? I think it's healthy because it helps you stay aware of what you're going through. And that's when you can, like, even when you do see like the news or you hear about something going on in the world, it's like, okay, but like at the end of the day, who's still in control, right? Like at the end of the day, what can I control? And this is what I teach my kids. Like I have she'll be 7 next week, 7-year-old daughter, 4-year-old son, and then a baby. He's like a year and a half now. But the two older ones, they know that there's only two things in this world that they can control, and it's their actions and their attitudes, nothing else. And so, like, when they're acting up or when they're like throwing a fit or something, I'm like, what can you control right now? And they'll say, like, actions and attitudes. Like, okay, yeah, please do that right now because you're not doing either. But at the end of the day, like, it's true, man. I'm like, I can't control, I can do my part and vote, right? And I can do my part and vote with my wallet every single day, like what brands I want to give money to.
So
Um,
true.
but I can't control at the end of the day like what anybody else is going to be doing. So I think it's almost like, I don't know. It's pretty wild. We get to thinking like this is probably unpopular, and I apologize for saying this ahead of time. But at the end of the day, I want a certain candidate to win. At the end of the day, whether they win or lose, it does not actually matter what I'm going to do today because it's not in my immediate circle of my family, my immediate friends, my business. Like, what, yes, some policies could change that will like make me pay more taxes or whatever. But at the end of the day, like, truly, I'm not successful because of who's in charge right now. I'm not a victim because of who's in charge right now. Doesn't matter who ends up winning, dude. And so I think that's like where you get rid of the victim mentality. And I came from like no money at all. Like our family was very, very broke. I had no idea how broke we were until I got older. But it was like one of the best things for me because I just knew like I'll never be broke. Like I got to figure out how to just never be broke. And it kind of takes away that victim mentality of like it's nobody's fault but mine. And I love that attitude that I have. It's like a chip on my shoulder, but it's like if something bad happens, it was because of my fault. Even though somebody else on my team dropped the ball, I didn't do a good enough job coaching them to know what I would have done in that situation. And so it is my fault. Same thing with the family. Like I'm the only dad my kids have. So it's my fault if I jack them up. You know what I mean? I'm the only husband my wife has. So it's like it's my fault if she's not able to bloom as a wife because I'm dropping the ball as her husband.
Dude, it's so fucking true because today men don't want to take accountability for their actions because it really does fall on us. All those things that you just said, our children, our wife, our household, our income. I know that my family's lives have not been impacted by any president at any time. And I
Yeah.
don't know how old you are. We might be a little bit older than you. I'm
35.
gonna turn I'm gonna turn 38. My wife's gonna turn 36 in January, um, or February, depending on if we have um, identity thieves out there. It might be February. Uh, so it's like so I look at it the same way. I do have the guy who I want to win each time.
Mm-hmm.
Does that person win? Maybe, maybe not. But
Yeah.
it's never impacted us. We've never felt that our lives have changed any amount.
Yeah.
Or the thing I love the part of what you can control because I have some family members. They're planning this big event and they're all fucking stressed up to their
Mm-hmm.
fucking eyes, and I'm just like, I don't understand it.
Yeah.
Like it means nothing because this thing's gonna happen, and then the rest of the world is gonna move on, and you're never doing another event like this. It's just this one time thing that you're
Yeah.
doing in the backyard,
Yeah.
and everyone's so fucking stressed and pissed and worried about what people are going to think and all that. And it's like, this literally means nothing.
Yeah.
So let's just do it to our best ability.
Mm-hmm.
But regardless of how anyone acts, because how it turns out is very subjective,
Mm-hmm.
you're literally putting the result on other people's opinions, which
Mm-hmm.
does not make sense in my mind.
Right.
And you're letting that impact how you're living your life for the next 2 weeks. Doesn't make sense to me.
No, and we're not created to do that, right? Like we're created to give it all. So in that story, I was telling you about how we lost our dream house, right? First world stinking problems, by the way. Like it wasn't like I was. What bugged me the most, honestly, Jesse, was how many other people it bugged more than it bugged me and my wife. Like they were devastated that we lost our dream house, and I'm like, why do you care? Like I
Hmm.
love like the support and everything, but don't waste another second because we didn't get a house, another house. Like it's so crazy, man. Like again, that perspective thing, right? And I think when you have a, I don't know how you were brought up, but my mom basically raised us. We lived with my grandparents for a while. I never really had like that male figure every single day right next to me, like showing me how to be a man, right? And so at the age of 9, when my parents split, I was kind of forced into being the man of the house without knowing how to be the man of the house. I'm the oldest of 4 boys. And I just look back on like just God's grace on the whole process. And we grew up Mormon because that's what my mom's side was. And then we like left the Mormon church and then we became, started going to a Christian church after my mom got divorced. And so I always like knew about God and Jesus and like having faith and like being reverent and respecting your elders and all that stuff, right? Um, but it's just kind of crazy how we didn't really have like structure. And so like when you don't have a like the example you want, you have to like become the example that you're looking for. And so that's what happened with this whole God money thing, right? Like I didn't have that exact person. I was taking little bits and pieces of people and like created who I kind of am today. But
Hmm.
that being a dad and a husband, like I didn't know what it meant to be married for 10 years because I never seen it before in my family. Like
Yeah.
the longest marriage in my family was 8 years. And so, and I'm not complaining. I'm just saying like there was certain examples that I had, just like we all have, that again, like I still got to choose what the example is going to be for my kids, right? So,
Yeah, and we don't realize that those examples and how we parent the marriage we have is just going to be the same marriage that our children have unless we change it.
right. Yeah, chain breakers, man. Absolutely.
So, talking about building the house, having faith, let's talk about, because it kind of parallels entrepreneurship and God. I saw you made a little video on being an entrepreneur, the ups and the downs, and being a man of faith, and how it could be a lot more difficult for those who maybe aren't of faith in the entrepreneurship world.
Yeah, I mean, Jesus was the God was the first entrepreneur, right? He literally made something out of nothing, right?
Hmm.
So we're just making stuff that already exists, just tweaking it and making it happen in a different type of way. So I think the Bible is the best business book you can read. Truly, like if you go through it, it tells you exactly how to build a business. It tells you how to manage your finances. It tells you what to look out for. It tells you like there's so many stinking stories in the Bible when you actually read it as a living word and not just a history book. Like it is so stinking helpful. And part of my book, that's what I wanted is like someone to be able to like get the quick version of what God says about money in my book. But going back to like I was always an entrepreneur. Like I was just born that way, and I just didn't know the skills I needed to develop to have it. But like we were picking walnuts in the front yard and had a little radio flyer red wagon and would like sell them to all like the neighbors when I was like in grade school, and we'd like draw pictures and go sell them door to door and stuff. And again, when you don't have money growing up, you have to get creative on if you don't want the same lifestyle, you got to get creative on how to create a different lifestyle, right? And with God being a creator and we're made in his image, like we are all creators. And there's a really good book called Called to Create. And it talks about a big difference of creating versus competing. Like even our business, like right now, I'm at our medical supply business. It's called Idaho Sports Bracing. We sell medical devices and braces. We are not the only ones in the entire world that does this, but we do it a certain way. And so I don't feel like we have all these competitors. And so it drives me nuts. Like, you're an athlete, right? Did you play sports in school
Hmm.
and stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah. Same. So like, I love competing, but when I made the shift mentally of like, there's not another Goose Susie on the stinking planet. Like, God made only one of me, right? There's
Yeah.
not another Jesse on the planet. Like, yes, people have our same names. They might have wear blue shirts on the same day, that kind of thing. But at the end of the day, like,
Hmm.
we're truly a one of one. And so when I just look at like what God did and just how he created, and we have that in us, I don't think, I know I can't create a tree, but I can create a house out of the tree, right? That's the other thing too. Like, we're partners with God. And so as long as you just let God guide your steps, like, dude, life just looks totally different. So like when Goose was doing it his way, I had $4 to my name. I had a 407 credit score. I owed everybody money. I was living in my best friend's parents' rental, and I was like a month and a half behind rent every single time. It's kind of funny. When my phone wouldn't work, is because I didn't pay my bill. It wasn't because it was the Verizon towers, but it's because I didn't pay my bill. And dude, I was just that guy. I was just like calling every single month, like, can you please turn it back on? He's like, you have to pay your bill, dude. Like, this is part of the process. But it wasn't until I was 23 when I decided everything was my fault. And the situation I was in was because of the choices that I made, either knowingly or unknowingly, but it was my fault. And so that's when I started to make the huge change of like, who do I actually want to be? Not
Hmm.
who am I because of my dad or because of blah, blah, blah situation.
Yeah.
No, who do I want to be?
Yeah. A lot of men, I think, use that kind of Freudian excuse. I use it as an excuse of their upbringing is the result of who they are.
Yeah.
When it's like, I get that Freud is popular and that was his theory, but
Right.
I completely disagree. Um, I don't know if you're familiar with Alfred Allard. He was another. He's around that same time, and he had a completely different theory that we are who we are because of the choices we made, which makes way more sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It- yeah, and I know I've met men, I've coached men who they don't want to take responsibility for their lives and really breaking them through. And it's sometimes it's because of pride, and
Mm-hmm.
most of the time insecurities, of not actually holding themselves accountable. Well, you didn't know what I had to go through. You weren't raised like I was raised. And it's like, but again, you're deflecting, you're making excuses,
Yeah.
you're not taking responsibility, and you're 30 years old. It's not like talking to a 17-year-old, 16-year-old who just got kicked out of their house. It's talking to full grown men who
Right.
have children, they have wives, and it's like the reason your children are this way is a direct representation of your leadership or lack thereof.
100%.
And it's like, no, no, because of, and just really getting men to understand that, one, can be hard, but two, once they do understand that, like you were saying, everything is my fault. It is.
Mm-hmm.
I've told this to people, like my at one point I was trying to raise $10 million for a business in 2019. I was talking to a couple billionaires who you can literally Google. One of them was on the Obama finance committee. One of them owns a NASCAR team. It was fucking cool. And it was cool. And come Q4, we're exchanging documents. 2022 rolls around where, attorneys have drafted X, Y's, and Z's. And that stuff takes a process. It's not something you get done in a weekend or even in a month, because then we want to change something and they want to change something. And their attorneys are on Christmas vacation. Nothing happens in December for some reason around business deals. So like that was just a month where nothing happened. And then this thing came around like February and March, and the family who was previously in the Obama Finance Committee, they brought up COVID to us first. of
Mm.
how we're not going to be doing any business deals for the next 5 years, they said. And it was like, this was in February, March. And I'm just like, because of this freaking flu.
The beer
But
coolers.
long story short, people around me was like, man, you would have got funded if it wasn't for COVID. And
Mm.
it's like, how about I could have worked harder 2019 or 2018 and got funded before?
I love that, dude. Yeah.
Because I take full responsibility that we didn't get funded because of me.
Mm.
Even though I had a partner, he was a former VP at HBO, had retired from HBO. It's like, I don't put any of it on him. I don't put any of it on what happened in 2020. It's all on me because there was so many things that I could have done different. I could have had a better sense of urgency. And Jocko Willink has a thing where like something doesn't go good, it goes bad, and he says, "Good," and it's like, "Good? How is that good?" And it's like, "You didn't get that promotion? Good.
Good.
You didn't get whatever? Good."
Yeah.
And we think like, no, that's terrible. And it's like, no, it allows you to perfect your craft. It allows you to go back and change something in you to be prepared for when it does happen. Like, what can you learn from it not happening so that when it does, you're ready?
I love that, dude. It's so true. And that's what like reminds me of actually partnering up with God, right? Like he's always going to do his part. We have to do our part. He's not going to do our part for
Hmm.
us because he's God. Like that's how much he loves us. Is he's not. And that's being a dad too. It's tough. That's the tough thing for me is like letting my kids fail. Like right there. Like I was just like, man, I wish you said 10 million or 20 million. What were you trying to do?
10.
Yeah,
We
so
were raising
instantly, like,
10.
man, I wish I just had it just to give it to you, like because I know who you are, right? And I was like, man, you
Hmm.
would kill like especially could do it. But you're right, like when there's blessings in the no's too, and it's a no forever. It's just a no, not right now.
Hmm.
And I don't remember who said this or if I was just like it just came to me when I was like in prayer or something. But it's like there's no once in a lifetime opportunities. There's just God's will. And I was
Yeah.
like, oh man, that's awesome because that takes a lot of pressure off too, right? Like yes, I'm always trying to like hurry and get something done. I'm always trying to be the best I absolutely can. But at the end of the day, like if it is a no in that moment, then it's just a no right now. Like exactly what you did, you could have been like, oh, it was my partner's fault, or it's COVID's fault, or it's whoever's fault, it's the mask's fault, whatever, right?
Hmm.
You're like, no, it was 18 and 19 Jesse and what I
Yeah.
was doing or not doing then, not right now.
Yeah. And going back to what you were saying about even the having that kind of scarcity mindset, the competition thing,
Yeah.
I think too often people get caught up in that the competition. And I like what Grant Cardone says about when you feel that you're in competition with another like business or person, it creates the scarcity mindset when really there's an abundance,
Hmm.
that there is an abundance. And even with what we were, man, I forgot what I was gonna what I was gonna say. I lost my train of thought.
Talking about Grant
That
Cardone's scarcity mindset.
um it was when we were, man, I don't know.
Okay.
I totally thought, I was like, oh, that
Dude,
was
I
it.
love Grant Cardone, and at first I couldn't listen to him. Like he would like rub me the wrong way, and I was like, man, but what he's saying is good, but I just can't.
Hmm.
Like he's just too flashy for me. And what's so funny is he even says this. He's like, you hate the most in people what you know you should change about yourself, and not that I need to be like more flashy or anything, but he was beneath those layers is because he was so confident in what he was saying. And back
Hmm.
then, I wasn't confident in what I was saying, even though I
Yeah.
had proof. It took a while for me to be able to look at my track record and be like, oh no, God's actually helped me along the way. Like,
Hmm.
I am actually doing this. I can actually help people. But when you are stuck in an environment that you're choosing not to grow out of, not necessarily leave, but grow out of,
Yeah.
like You do. You get stuck there mentally. And another thing Grant Cardone says is he says, like, you have to make sense of your situation or you go crazy. That's why when you're coaching these men, they have all these excuses, is because they're trying to make sense of the situation that they're in so that they can kind of have sympathy or at least understanding from people of why they are where they are,
Hmm.
which is like, dude, like it, Kelsey and I, we talk a lot about this kind of stuff. And I always grew up around like self help, right? Like I was going to business meetings with my dad. My dad was a network marketer. So he was like in and out of multiple different businesses back when
Hmm.
my parents were married. But what was great about that was I actually got to be around an environment of like growth minded, right? Like people actually wanting to grow, do better. And I was like in business meetings at the age of 6 years old. And I always knew like one day I was going to be successful. I just didn't know what it was or what it meant. And that's why a lot of people today don't feel like they're successful because they don't even know what success is. Like they're just comparing your success or my success when it has nothing to do with their success. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't until last year where it was crystal clear to me what success actually was. And it was becoming who God created you to be. That is how you become successful. That's when then you can have the material things too. That's when you can have like the paychecks too. That's when you can have the marriage. That's when you can have the kids, like all these things. Like, but it's a process. It's not just like you wake up and you're 38 years old and all of a sudden like I got it all figured out today because I'm 38. It's like no, it's not how it works. Like it's all a process. But if you quit learning, if you get dude, this is the thing that it drives me it drives me crazy more than when people say like I can't do something is when people settle. And settling to me, dude, is the most anti-Christian thing you can do. It really is. Like we're called to be content. We're not called to settle. And so many people mess those two up. It's like the parable of the talents, right? If we were supposed to settle, if we were supposed to just manage what we have going on, just maintain what we have going on, then the servant that got basically beaten for not duplicating or multiplying the talent. You know what I'm talking about with the talents, right? Okay,
Yeah.
so for people who don't know, three servants, one got one talent, the second one got two talents, and then the third one got five talents. Number two and number three doubled their talents. By the way, a lot of people don't know this, but a talent was worth 20 years worth of wages back in the day. So it wasn't like they're talented at running or juggling, or it was like, no, it was actual currency back then. And so the one that buried it, and this is where I do have beef with Dave Ramsey's theories, is like, if it was just about maintaining and managing, then that guy wouldn't have been casted out. He would have been praised for returning the exact amount that he got. But life's
Yeah.
not about managing, it's about growing, multiplying. Like throughout the Bible, that's everything is about getting better, getting more, and not just material things, but just becoming more. Because we're supposed to become like Jesus. Who was Jesus? He was the most of the mostest. You know what I mean? So like
Yeah.
we shouldn't be okay at like Goose at 35 just because I have a few things, just because I have a few titles. That doesn't mean anything, dude. Like to me, it doesn't. But like somebody else looks at you or looks at someone like me and they're like, oh, he got it made. Like, and Kelsey and I have this conversation a lot. That's my wife. It's like, we haven't even got close to who we're supposed to be, or we haven't even got close to what we're supposed to be doing. But I think that's when you know, like, God is leading the way, not my comfort zone is leading the way.
So, what would you tell somebody who was wondering what God has in store for them or what their purpose is?
So Jeremiah 29:11, right? For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you, not to harm you. That right there is like, that is having faith. And I heard this definition of faith is acting like God is telling the truth. So if we're acting in a way that what God is saying is actually true, then we will never settle. Then we won't ever be okay with just what we have going on. We can be content with it for sure, but
Hmm.
we have to know like it doesn't end here because we woke up today. Like that's what's crazy, dude. Like I think about that a lot. Like I woke up today. I could have died in my
Yeah.
sleep, but I woke up. So
Yeah.
God's not
Yeah.
done with me. And that's where I think people struggle. In my book, I actually have one of the opening pages is a quote of mine, but it's "You were born on purpose for a purpose," and I
Totally
believe
agree.
that, dude. Like, but when you don't think that way, when you just feel like you're just another peon in the game or the matrix or whatever, but no, like God has an amazing plan for you, and when you put Him at the steering wheel, and you're like, God, what are we doing today? Where are we going? Then life just gets so much stinking better. Not easier, definitely not easier, but just better.
Hmm. Yeah, I like to tell people that God made you perfectly, like how you were meant to be made.
Yeah,
Like he didn't make a mistake.
yeah,
And some people have a hard time with that. Like there was a guy in my Bible study who was like 5'4", and he was like, "No, man, girls on Tinder say they don't want a guy who's under 6 foot." It's like, well, one, why are you on Tinder? And two, you don't need to be talking to those girls.
right.
You
Yeah,
that they made it easy that you don't need to go after them. Now you just got your pool this big. You don't want a wide net
right,
because with wide nets comes a bunch of things you don't want to reel in.
right.
You
Yeah,
want
that's
to
a good point.
get narrow that down to a specific group of what you would call like a good quality woman
Hmm.
because they're not in an abundance. And I've
Right.
told this to men before, and they're like, "No, man, there's so many out there." I'm like, "Keep looking," because and then in this very guy who I'm talking about, he ended up getting married to a great woman
That's awesome.
because at the time had previously dated her. He's like,
Mm,
"No, man, they're out there." I'm like, "Yeah, you're in college right now. Go look around campus. Tell me how many there are."
right.
And then time goes by, and he's like, "I think you're right, man." And it's like, "Yeah, I know."
I had a pastor actually tell me this is when I was single, but so I met my wife when I was 25. We dated for 6 months. We were engaged for 6 months and then got married.
Mhm.
And he said, "Are you becoming the man? How do you say it? Basically, are you becoming the man that she's looking for, or are you just hoping that someone settles for you, or thinks that you're just the cat's meow and then gets you?
Mhm.
Like, are you becoming who she's looking for?" I was like, "Oh, that's actually really good." And that's when I actually started to turn my life around. Because I was a knucklehead, man. I was a college football player, played basketball, was in a frat. Like I did all like the worldly things. And on paper, my wife should have said no, 100%.
Yeah, yeah, same.
She was very different upbringing than I'd had. But again, it was God guided, God provided. So
Hmm.
it was because I was focused on Him and willing to let Him lead me into that. Like that's why I got Kelsey. It wasn't because I was such a smooth talker. It wasn't because like I dressed so nice or anything. Like it literally was because God was like, "No, this messy kid is going to get this perfect little angel, and then they're going to start a family."
Yeah, mine is my story is pretty much just like that. I met
Really?
my wife at the beach in Lake Tahoe.
Yes.
I'm wearing like a Speedo. It's 4th of July.
Yeah.
I'm wearing a red, white, and blue Speedo. So everyone could see how jacked I was.
Yeah.
You know, I had the flex in the quads all day, the abs, the whole bit. Okay. And these girls come up to me, and two of them knew me from like previous, like high school. And,
Mm,
they want to give me extra hugs, blah, blah, blah. And my wife was with them, and she was their cousin.
mm,
And they're like, "Meet my cousin." And this girl has a like a tunic on. So like she's not just in a bathing suit. She
yeah.
has a bathing suit underneath like a beach dress thing. She has
Yeah.
like a hat and sunglasses. Um, she was sober. I was sober. I didn't drink. Um, and her cousins kept trying to introduce her to me because
Mm.
one of her cousins was already engaged, but still was very huggy, we'll say. But she had no interest in even talking to me.
Oh, really?
And I
Yeah.
was like, challenge accepted.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
So fast forward, we dated for a long time, but it wasn't good. We
Yeah.
would break up. It wasn't until I really like dug my heels into my faith.
Mm.
Because I had been going to church. I had been going to church before that. I've even taken her to church with me a couple of times. And it's actually funny. The first time I took her, but we went to the like 11 a.m. and the 9 a.m. was coming out, and a buddy was like, "Oh man, it was fire! It was so good." Pastor Harvey he was killing it today, and I was like, "Oh sweet." We go in. Long story short, the pastor's like, Muslims are going to hell. Mormons are going to hell. Anyone who atheists are going to hell. Anyone who is not a Christian and doesn't
Yeah.
believe in Jesus, they're going to hell. And that was like the 20-second version of what happened. And I'm just
Right.
like, oh my gosh, she's gonna probably never come back because she was not a believer.
Yeah.
But her mom's family was from an all Mormon town.
Okay.
Um, but she was raised to be not a believer. So, anyways, fast forward when I really actually put my life in faith and just like you said, started to focus on becoming the man that I needed to be for her and a family.
Yeah.
Our freaking relationship hockey sticked
Yeah.
like in more than Nvidia.
Yeah.
It was, yeah, it is. And I tell people like the two greatest things that have ever happened in my life. One, getting baptized because I
Mm.
ended up getting baptized before my second son was born.
Oh, that's awesome, dude.
Yeah, not before my first one.
Yeah.
He was kind of very unplanned,
Mm. Sure.
and then getting married
Yeah.
to her because like we've been together. You could say 14 years,
Yeah.
but there was definitely rough spots in the first before we had our son.
Sure.
Um, and so baptized, getting married, and we did our whole marriage around like we're being married before God and our community in that
Mm.
order.
Yeah.
Like this is what we're doing. And I had already been baptized. I We were in a Bible study group where we were really focusing, or at least I was focusing on the faith and diving
Mhm.
deep. And like people even said who worked for me were like, "You're different," and it's like,
Mm.
yeah, that's the point.
Yeah.
That's
100%,
good.
dude.
That's what I want to hear. I want to
Yeah.
hear that I am different. I want to, when I'm around my old friends from college and they talk about stuff that's stupid, I want to not necessarily engage, but be like, yeah, I know that I'm different now, which
Mhm.
is, what I wanted
It's
and
the
what
point.
happened.
Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, following that faith will be freaking great for a marriage. Like I tell anybody, like you say you're a Christian, dive deep, and I promise you it will improve your marriage.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so true, man. Like we have a pastor, and one of the things he says is when you're born, you look like your mom and dad. When you die, you look like your choices. And it's like when he said that, it just hit so hard because, like, I am now been, this will be year 10 next year. We got married in June, but that'll be the longest that anybody's been married. And there is like that pride behind that of just like, I'm beating everybody, right? In that, but it's deeper than that. It's just like it's only because of God's grace that we're
Hmm.
even here. Like our year one was the hardest year for sure because of expectations, right? Like I'm older than she is, so I'm 4 years older than she is. But she just grew up in basically how my kids are growing up now with like parents still together, going to
Hmm.
church almost every single Sunday, go to private Christian school now. And I was just like, I didn't have any of that stuff.
Yeah.
I knew I wanted that stuff. I just didn't know what it looked like. And so we're only able to do it because we're equally yoked. And at the end of the
Yeah.
day, like we don't agree on everything except for one thing, and that's the one thing that matters. And that's why our like we work together too. So she's the CEO of this company, our Idaho Sports Bracing Company, and dude, we talk to each other like 8, 10 times a day. Like it's, and some people like they look at that and like, I could never. And I'm like, dude, it's my wife, it's my partner. Like it's
Yeah.
we're building this thing together. It's not
Mhm.
just I am doing everything and she just sits back and just watches or whatever. Like, and people they kind of get that impression that because I'm the one that's out in public a lot more, right? But like it's a total teamwork thing, dude. And it's funny. I knew I would have what I have today eventually, but because of my wife and because I feel like we've done it God's way, He's just accelerated everything. And that's really what faith does. Is it does just accelerate certain things with finances, with your marriage, um, with your abilities, with your capacity, dude. Like you're a busy guy, but you still have time to be an amazing dad. You still have time to be an amazing husband because you're walking in faith, not because you think you can do it all, but just like God gives you that capacity to for what's important.
And doesn't it blow your mind when those people are like, how could you be around your wife 24/7? You work with your wife, you go home to your wife, you sleep next to your wife. I'm like, I wouldn't want it any other way
I
because
know.
I here's my office and my wife is just right over there
Yeah.
because she's a stay-at-home mom and I work from home.
Yeah.
And now there are times where I bug her too much
Sure.
and she wants some free time from me.
Yeah.
But but other than that, it's like I wouldn't want it any other way. There are times where I'm like, yeah, maybe I should when I as I'm expanding, go out, get office, bring the employees all in house. But then I'd be away from my wife and kids that
Mhm.
much more when I like being able to pop out and go help with something. I like just calling her in and when she just sits on the couch in my office and we just chat about things. And
Yeah.
then I get back to a meeting or I get back to something. Like I freaking love that. Like the men who want to get away from their wife, even after they've done their 40 hours or 50 hours at their construction or whatever office job, it's like, dude, that you realize that is a direct result of your lack of leadership.
Yeah. That's good, dude. And that's not success. Like
No.
it's not like if yeah, it's crazy. There's nothing too. Like we just, I think oftentimes people forget to keep dating, right? Like especially after like,
Mhm.
dude, like we're we've been together for 10 years now, but we've been married for 9. And dude, like date nights are better, sex is better, like everything just keeps getting better and better. It's not like oh we've plateaued, so we just Netflix every night and just like no, dude. Like that's one thing that she's like, I just want to get the TV in our bedroom. I'm like, there's no TV going in our bedroom. I promise. Like, there's never
Yeah.
gonna be a TV in our bedroom. And she's like, but we just like, wouldn't it be so nice to like fall asleep with the TV on? I was like, no, it won't. Like, I want to leave the TV and then you and I go to our room where we do 2 things in our room. Like, so we're not
Yeah.
watching TV in our room.
There's no TV in our bedroom. No
Yeah,
bedrooms. There's no TVs. I mean, we don't even let our kids watch TV. So
you
our
don't
TV, no,
like no time at all.
we let them watch one thing on Saturday,
Oh, that's awesome.
and it's one. And here's the thing: because we let them, there's such a lack of TV going on. They know that they get to watch TV on, and it's usually when I say one thing, like they can watch like Cars, like the movie. It's an hour
Sure.
and like 43 minutes.
Yeah.
One thing on a Saturday, and we alternate who gets to pick it.
Okay.
Me, mom, and then my older boy and my younger boy. They're the
Okay.
same ages apart as yours. Like we're 7 and 4.
Mm.
And it's on the calendar of who gets to pick. No bullshit. 50% of the time they forget because we
Really?
just watch so little. They'll
Yeah.
just stay outside playing and totally forget. And then like Monday, they'd be like, oh, it was my time on Saturday. Yeah, that was 3 days ago, bud. Sucks to suck.
That's
And
awesome,
then
though.
and then like sometimes the older boy, if he forgot his weekend, he'll like tell the younger one, so like on this one, I think we should watch this.
Just trying to
And it's
persuade him a little bit.
yeah, because he skipped his day.
Yeah.
But back to kind of what you were saying about the dating.
Uh-huh.
We date. We
Yeah.
literally plan
Yeah.
dates, and we do little morning mini dates too,
Hmm.
where it'll be on the days I don't go to the gym. We'll wake up, I'll go do my 3 miles with my pup, come home, and then around like
30
5:30,
miles?
3.
Oh, 3 miles. I was like,
Yeah, no,
getting
not
close.
30. Nope, not 30. Unless I'm driving and he can do the 30. Uh, we'll for so like around 5:36, we'll get together, we'll hang out in the morning before the kids are even up, and then she'll like leave to go to the gym. But then we'll plan literally this day.
Hmm.
We're doing dates. And like you said, the more we're going on 14 years,
Yeah.
our relationship is better than it's ever been.
Yeah.
And not by chance.
No, you work on
Like,
it.
yeah,
It's on
like you said,
purpose.
our sex life and the amount of times that we do that activity in the month, it's it should be something that is getting better and increasing, all those things like you were saying. But when you look at the average couple, it's they sleep together once a week.
Hmm.
So that means that there's a lot of married couples who are sleeping together far less,
Right.
far, far less. And not that life is about that, but that's a huge
Part of it.
connection between two people.
Yeah.
It's huge. And the fact that you guys are even able to, have conversations and talk about things to, and, even get into the moods of those, like you want to be around those people, especially like women, because their sexual drive is invoked by emotion,
Yeah.
and men, ours can be more physical, but it's like, does she even turn you on to where you physically want to get near her? And are you even invoking that positive emotion and feelings around her to where she wants to?
Right.
If you're not, that's how you end up doing once a week or less than once a week if you're even lucky. Or it's just sad because couples will think that that's just the life they have to live.
It is. They get numb to a new normal. It's
Hmm.
like you created this new normal. I don't know when you both decided that this is what you're going to do for the rest of your life, but you both
Yeah.
decided because both of you
Yeah.
stopped caring at one point. And yeah, dude, that's why I started getting back in shape, man. Like I'm a part of this group called C12, which is a Christian ran organization. It's global. It's pretty cool, but it's for business owners. And
Hmm.
you have to hit like certain criteria to be able to be in it. But one of the criteria is like we have one meeting once a month, and they do check-ins. How was the month? How is your marriage 1 out of 10? How is your health? How is your fitness? How's your finances? Like all these different things, right? How's your time with God? Blah blah blah. And it is a vulnerable time because as men, like that's one thing that people don't love to open up about. We like to just put on the face of like everything's great, everything's good, but it's like, well, could be way better if you would just be
Hmm.
honest with yourself. But we just get numb to it, and that's one thing with Kelsey. Like I got up to 224, which some people are going to say, "I wish I was 224," right? But
How tall are you?
my weight doesn't matter what your weight should or shouldn't be. Like
Hmm.
my weight is what my weight is. And so I used to compete. I did physique shows, and that's actually when Kelsey and I started dating. I was down to 181 pounds. So going from 181 pounds to 224 and not being pregnant, like that's a big swing. You know what I mean? For no
Uh-huh.
real reason other
Yeah.
than just no discipline.
Uh-huh.
And it was this year, dude, and I was like, I my wife doesn't deserve a fat husband. Like she doesn't. And
Yeah.
that was the mindset I had of like it's my fault. And so I told her too, I was like, I want you to throw away all my clothes because I want you to see me naked all the time. I don't want you to want me to get dressed. Like that's like my mentality moving forward. And
Uh,
so I did, dude. I got down to 199. I wanted to see the one in front of it, not the two. And I'm not like where I necessarily want to be, but I'm a lot better than where I was. And dude, like it's like kind of that Andy Elliott approach of like, do you like Andy Elliott?
yeah.
Yeah, Andy Elliott, dude, he's hardcore. I really like him, but it's true what he says about just like men getting in shape, and it does just start to fire all those little muscles and nerves in your body, and you want to your libido goes up, like you want to be able to just be a man for your wife again and not just this guy that's around.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you've seen my stories. I talk a lot about that in more of my stories because I'm
Yeah,
posting post gym pic, calling out dads. You
yeah,
know, if you had to hand over your physique to your son and he could never change it, would you be satisfied?
dang, yeah. I didn't see that video. That's good.
Oh, I've done that a couple times on
That's
the
good.
stories. Yeah,
Okay.
and it's me in the mirror just flexing, shirt off,
Mhm.
because I don't want to just say that and then
Right.
you can only see chest up, and I'm 220 with and my guts hanging over my belt buckle.
Yeah.
Because how tall are you?
6'1" in the morning.
6'1" in the morning.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're same height. So
Yeah.
I mean, if I was 220, I would not look good.
How much
You
are
know,
you right now? What do you weigh?
I'm 184,
Dang.
pretty
Okay.
pretty lean, and that's with a shoulder injury. So I don't do a lot of upper body stuff. It's mostly
Yeah.
in the legs.
I've seen you
Um,
deadlift. You're way stronger than your legs are way stronger than me.
yeah, but I mean, to Jesus, that don't mean nothing. But
To me, it
and
does.
and here's one of the things that I tell guys, because I've had guys say like, well, my body's not built like yours, blah blah blah, and it's like, okay, that there was a point in time where every single man was f- had a physique of he's ready for war, he can go out and hunt and kill, and he can protect his family. If your physique isn't that, then we've just gotten too comfortable with the abundance of food that we have here in the US, which is super new to humans.
Yeah.
It's like, go back to the time of Jesus. There wasn't a fat man around,
Right.
you know? Everyone had abs, whether they might have been skinny as a rail. They
Right.
might have been a little bit bigger because they were a soldier, but everybody was quote unquote in shape in a sense.
Hmm.
You didn't indulge because you didn't know when you could maybe be getting another meal. But we like to indulge because it makes us feel good. I mean, you could go down a rabbit trail of, our food system's different than over in Europe's, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
I'm on board with any of that. But as men, like you were saying, you just feel better being in shape, and how that makes our wife feel.
Hmm.
And our kids look at us like we're Superman, or our kids look at us like, oh, he's just like all the other dads that pick up anyone from school,
Right.
and
And
it's
they're paying
sad.
attention. They notice way more than we give them credit for. They're constantly just soaking up everything and watching everything, and like, yeah, they're picking up on our habits too. Like, yeah, it is crazy. And even that guy that was like, "Well, I'm built like you." Again, that was his excuse to make
Hmm.
sense of his situation.
Yeah.
Like,
And because I had a nutritionist on one of my podcasts, and he said, and he's from Australia. He goes, I tell anyone, what would your body look like if you had to live in the wild for 2 years and you were able to feed yourself off all the game that you caught?
hmm,
He's like, that's probably your base point.
hmm, yeah,
And
that's interesting.
it's like, I mean, he's not wrong,
Yeah,
because if we lived during the Spartans, or if we lived during Jesus, or if we lived during in King Tut, I
yeah.
mean, it's
Any other
like
time than what we got going
any
on.
other time other than the last 100. Go back to 1920. Have
Yeah,
you seen those people like posting all those photos of New York in 1920?
yeah,
And there's not a single overweight person in 1920.
no,
And we like to categorize like Al Capone as like in the movies he's fat, but it's like he was just a bulkier guy.
mm,
It's like we like to make it until he got like much older. But when you actually look at real photos from back then, there wasn't even people who were overweight.
yeah,
And someone might say I'm fat shaming. It's like, it's extremely unhealthy.
Yeah.
Like you're going to kill yourself due
And
to a fork and knife problem.
it's information, right? Like that's one
Hmm.
thing that even my in-laws right now, they're doing like a gut reset, right?
Hmm.
And I fast, like I'll fast once a month, and I love it. At first, it was the hardest thing I ever did in my life. It really was. It
Hmm.
was so hard. I didn't make it past 10 o'clock, but now I know like what to expect, and I'm able to do it. I'm disciplined to do it. But dude, like it was, they're like in their 50s, and so you got people in their 50s that were not really trained about, like they didn't even know what real exercise was or what was good to eat. Like that's what's so crazy too. We go even today, we go with all these years of school and we don't know what to eat, how to be healthy, and what to do with money.
Hmm.
Three very, very important things to do for the rest of your life, to know of what to do with it. And
Yeah.
so we just waste so much time. And I'm not trying to bash the education or whatever like that, but like that was one of the reasons why my kids are in private school is one, just the way they handled the lockdown. They did a pretty good job with it. And then two, just like trying to give them that like extra little edge on like they have Jesus every single day at
Hmm.
school.
Yeah.
And so if nothing else, that's at least better than going to a public school where there's zero of that. There's none of it. It can't be in there, which is sad, but it just isn't in there. So yeah, it's wild, man. Like again, that's why as dads, as wives, like we have to be great parents, not just good parents, not just around, not just available, but like it takes stinking effort to actually build something out that's worth passing down.
Hmm.
And I think people just like it's tough because I think we all I have a hard time with this too. Just like when people say like, I'm doing the best I can and everything else, like, well, you're doing the best with the information you have right now. But
Yeah.
I could see you leaving a lot on the table. And that's not me judging you. That's just me knowing that one, you're a believer. So if you're a believer from the get, like you have different standards, period. And it's when you don't, that's when it's like, so what do you actually believe in then? Like what you're saying you're a believer, you're claiming you're a believer, but you look the way you do, or you treat
Hmm.
people the way you treat people, or your bank account looks the way it does. Like what's going on here? Where's the disconnect? What do
Hmm.
you not actually believe in? But yeah, it's I everything I say, dude, is just like I'm just still trying to figure it all out as I go throughout the day, throughout the years, just trying to learn as I go and plug into people like you, plug into people who have the similar mindset and just like know that there's more, know that God has more for us. And it's not just to consume more, it's not just to have more, but it's to just become more and just be that example.